Ridiculous Crime is a production of iHeartRadio.
There is Elizabeth Dutton.
Here I am.
How you doing?
Look out. I'm good.
You are? You good?
How you doing?
So, do you know what's ridiculous?
I do know it's ridiculous. Columbia outerwear, like Columbia.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
I'm more of like a Cotopaxi girl.
Ah.
North Face. Anyway,
yeah, I'm like North Face.
Yeah. Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
They did a mashup. And someone sent handful of people sent this to us. And I'm looking on my iPad at a picture of this, and it is nauseating.
Color me shocked.
And the wording on this image, the big games beer just dropped.
That's the wording on it.
That's the wording on it, because they got together with Breakside Brewery.
Oh, never heard of it.
To come up with a beer called Nature Calls.
Oh, God.
With Columbia Sportswear, you can enjoy the parts of nature. So it stands to reason that we could even start with bear poop and end up with something delectable. Introducing Nature Calls, a big game beer brewed by our friends at Breakside Brewery. It's smooth and satisfying with notes of honey and huckleberry.
Oh my God.
Scoop yours at one of the locations below, or if you're not lucky enough to be in Oregon, you can sign up in case of a future release. Here's the picture.
No, I don't care.
It's a can of beer sitting in a pile of bear poop.
What is up with all this stunt casting of things? Like, just make a good beer.
But you missed out, Zaron, because they had a booth at Levi's Stadium at the Super Bowl.
Oh, look
and you
at me.
could have gone and like chug-a-lugged in the parking lot.
Drank some beer poop beer.
Or gone up to Oregon, but whatever.
Bear poop beer.
You can sign. I put your email in because it said can't make it to the tailgate or Breakside Brewery.
Stop putting my email.
That sucks. We'll probably make more one day. So sign up here and we'll let you know about future drops. So I signed you up.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Like, nobody makes a good product anymore to get attention. They're like, no, we just do this crazy thing. See, this is like bear poop and beer. Of course. Why not?
Of course. That makes me want it.
Yeah. You want some bear poop beer poured into an old used clown shoe?
I feel like if you found out the number of places where I signed you up with your email address, you
Luckily,
would
I don't check my email.
lose it. You would absolutely lose it.
Yeah.
I'm
already I'm halfway down that track.
You have no idea.
I'm a nitro burning funny losing it.
Check your spam folder.
No.
One of these days you'll win.
Yeah, right. Win. Use that word very loosely.
I do.
So, Elizabeth Dutton.
Yeah, Zaron Burnett.
Do you know what else is ridiculous that doesn't involve bears, poop, or beer?
Hit me.
Okay. The stories we tell ourselves versus the stories others tell about us.
Okay.
Especially if you're a bank robber.
Yeah, that's true.
Elizabeth, I thought you'd enjoy this one. I made it special for you today because today's story is about Cora Hubbard, Lady Bandit.
Yeah.
This is Ridiculous Crime, a podcast about absurd and outrageous capers, heists, and cons. It's always 99% murder free and 100% ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Elizabeth.
Zaron.
In order to dig into this one, we need to step back in time. The year is 1897.
Okay.
Our modern world is straining to be born. Although 1897 really is the beginning of a new era. I mean, like, you have like Thomas Edison inventing the kinetoscope, which is just the precursor to the film projector.
Well, and you're less than 100 years away from Point Break.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
You're inside of a century of the Point Break.
Inside of it, yes.
Now, at this point, since it's the beginning of a new era, it's also the end of an old era. Yeah.
R.I.P.
In the case of this story, the end of the old era refers to the end of the Wild West and the era of cowboys and cowgirls.
I know you love that.
You know I do. Now, there's a very physical indicator for the end of this era. In particular, one that can be delineated by the discovery of oil.
Oh, really?
In the Indian Territory.
Interesting.
Yeah, this all marks the ends of the days of the Indian Territory.
Yeah.
On April 15th, 1897, in Indian Territory, in the land of the Osage Indians, a huge new oil boom starts with the discovery of major oil deposits. Because before they've been in Pennsylvania, Ohio, that area. Now suddenly it's like, oh, the Permian Basin, but this is Oklahoma.
Sure.
Anyway, Scorsese made a whole movie about this story called The Killers of the Flower Moon. Check that out, right? Yeah. Now, coincidentally, 1 week and 1 day later, on April 23rd, 1897, the U.S. government sends something called the Dawes Commission out to Indian Territory to sign an agreement with members of the Choctaw and the Chickasaw nations that creates basically the legal framework to create the state of Oklahoma from the land formerly known or about to be formerly known as the Indian Territory. And just like that, Indian Territory would be no more. Elizabeth, that's the location for today's tale.
I love it.
The land once known as Indian Territory. Now, I won't keep saying it, but do you know
Say it again.
about Indian Territory?
What do you mean, do I know about it?
Like, do you know why it exists, why it's called that, its whole vibe, its story, if
That's
you will?
That's like Trail of Tears stuff, right?
Yeah, so it starts with Andrew Jackson, the Indian Removal Act, the Trail of Tears, the forced migration of the so-called 5 civilized tribes, which is the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Creek Muskogee, and the Seminole tribes. Now, the Indian Territory is this vast expanse of land. And the idea basically started with Jefferson and moved through every president until Andrew Jackson's like, let's actually physically march them at gunpoint to this place and sequester the natives from the East Coast and the South into what is, at this point, what we would think of as Oklahoma, but it's actually Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma. Then eventually it shrinks its borders down
and the
to
most
Oklahoma.
Foreboding areas of those places.
There was some good land in there, but mostly it's not. I mean, not the best land. And Oklahoma actually has some good land. I mean, we've driven through it. We've seen.
We have, when we did our little road trip.
Yeah. Now, Indian Territory had not just been a land for the natives who were forced to live there, but also became a hideout for Wild West outlaws because it was like this rather lawless land. It was technically not even a U.S. territory. They called it that, but it was basically a conglomeration of these nations. So they're sovereign nations inside of America.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
So speaking of the outlaws that called the Indian nation their home, it brings us to one of the most famous American outlaws who was a woman. Her name was Belle Starr. She was a satellite of the James Younger gang, as in Jesse James and Frank James and the Younger brothers. In case you don't know them, there's Jim, Cole, John, and Bob. So the James Younger gang, Elizabeth, were former Confederates. They'd ridden with Quantrill's Raiders, who'd fought this guerrilla war in Missouri, basically which is on the border of the Indian Territory. So they got familiar with the area and also like the tactics is what they call being bushwhackers. So imagine them coming out of the woods, coming out of the bushes and ambushing people and so forth. So the point is, though, who's Belle Starr? Great question, Elizabeth.
I love when I ask good questions like that.
Myra Maybelle Shirley was born in 1848 in Carthage, Missouri. She was the black sheep of a rather well-off family. Her mother's full name was Elizabeth Hatfield Shirley, as in the Hatfield-McCoy feud. Oh, for real? She was part of that family. Okay. So that's another part of U.S. history that's in the Belle Starr past. But she wasn't from, as I said, this backwards inbred family, as people assume from, the Warner Brothers cartoons about the Hatfields and McCoys. She was born wealthy. She even went to a prestigious school called the Carthage Female Academy. That's where she learned to play piano. She was given a classical education. And, we both know how life has a way of going weird, right?
Yeah, it does.
It certainly did for Belle Starr. When her family settled in Missouri, she first got mixed up with the Starr clan. They were a Cherokee family. They stole horses and cattle. They ran whiskey over the border into Indian Territory where whiskey was illegal. They were essentially a 19th century crime family.
Yeah.
And that's how Belle Starr meets the James Younger gang in the outlaw crime circles of the Indian Territory and Missouri.
Okay.
So in 1880, Belle Starr marries, well, she was still Shirley at this point, but she marries Sam Starr of the Cherokee clan, the Starr clan. She joins the Starr family, becomes Belle Starr. Then she moves to Indian Territory. That's where she becomes the most famous female outlaw of the Wild West era.
Nice.
As Belle Starr, she provides these basically hideouts to cattle rustlers, horse thieves, whiskey bootleggers, just all your run-of-the-mill criminals that were running around at that time. Now, 2 years later, in 1882, both Sam and Belle Starr, they are accused of horse theft, which was a hangable offense in the West, as you know. But since they weren't caught by a posse, they weren't strung up and hung from the tallest tree in the county. Instead, they're brought before federal judge Isaac Parker, a.k.a. the hanging Judge Parker.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now, in his courtroom in Fort Smith, she's tried, found guilty, but instead of swinging at the end of a rope, as typical for the hanging judge, instead he sends her to the federal penitentiary in Detroit.
Didn't you talk about Judge Parker and the Black Cowboys?
I did.
That's where I learned everything.
Hold that thought. I'll come back to that but yes, I did talk about Fort Smith. I talked about Bass Reeves, who was basically a lawman, a marshal bringing people before Judge Parker. I also talked about an outlaw who will come up later who went before Judge Parker. He's a big part of what we think of as the Wild West.
Yeah.
Now, side note, did you know that federal penitentiary in Detroit that you got sent to from the Indian Territory, that's how we get the Lone Ranger? Yeah, that same prison, the Detroit House of Corrections, that's where these writers were kicking around, and they his names were George Trendle and Fran Stryker, right? And they would hear these stories from all these cowboys, and it became like the underground crime stories in Detroit that were just, so different than what they knew. So they made a whole show, The Lone Ranger, right? These outlaws that Judge Parker would send there would tell these amazing tales of the Wild West. So these stories inspire these two writers. They create a radio show. It debuts in Detroit. The radio show is The Lone Ranger.
And that's Bass Reeves, right?
There's some dispute. There's another Texas lawman as well. So between the stories of Bass Reeves that outlaws would tell about getting caught by him, and then this Texas lawman is a little bit more of a physical fit.
Okay.
You get an amalgamation that becomes the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
Fun fact, though, Elizabeth, did you know you can connect Batman to the Lone Ranger?
Can you now?
I can. They exist in the same fictional universe, right? There's this connective tissue, and it's called My Man, the Green Hornet.
Oh.
Yeah, no, he also started as a radio show that started in Detroit from the same group of writers. And the Lone Ranger's last name is Reed, R-E-I-D. The last name of the Green Hornet is also Reed, Britt Reed, a.k.a. My Man, the Green Hornet. He's the son of the nephew of the Lone Ranger.
Son of the nephew of okay.
Right? So in other words, they're kin. So both of these heroes, they started, as I said, radio shows in Detroit. They created same two writers, so they are very much of one mind. Now, how do they connect to Batman?
That's a good question.
Great question, Elizabeth.
Thank you for asking, Zaron.
In the 1960s, Batman and the Green Hornet both had TV shows, right? And in its second season, the Green Hornet makes an appearance on the Batman TV show in this 2-episode arc. Anyway, the point is...
Was it super campy?
Super campy. And Bruce Lee's in it. Bruce Lee plays Kato, the personal valet to the Green Hornet, the only person who knows his secret identity.
Yeah.
So you have Bruce Lee kicking Batman or Robin's butt. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The whole point is that through the Green Hornet you can connect the Lone Ranger to Batman. So they all exist in the same
universe.
Yeah, fictional universe. Anyway, back to the nonfiction side of things. Belle Starr, most famous female outlaw. She would later become the real life inspiration for our outlaw of the day, old Cora Hubbard, Lady Bandit.
Yeah.
Now, after these messages, Elizabeth, we will meet Cora Hubbard, Lady Bandit, back in 2 and 2. Elizabeth.
Zaron.
We're back.
Hi.
You ready to meet my girl, Cora Hubbard?
Yes,
Lady
I
Bandit?
am.
You know I keep saying that for you, Elizabeth Dutton, Lady Host.
Lady Host.
Now,
loves a Lady Bandit.
The way the press wrote about Cora Hubbard at the time is super telling. You better believe to make her into this real badass, they, of course, made comparisons to Belle Starr.
Yeah.
So I found the February 7th, 1898 edition of the New York City newspaper, The World.
Okay.
And so they were writing about Cora Hubbard, and in their story starts, the opening sentence is, quote, Cora Hubbard, or Mrs. John Sheets, had been sent to the Missouri Penitentiary for bank robbery. She had led a life of crime which rivals in daring exploits the careers of Belle Starr, the Daltons, Cherokee Bill, and other notorious frontier bandits. Now, not only is she compared to Belle Starr, but she's also compared to my man, Cherokee Bill. So, I did.
Love that.
And you mentioned it earlier. So I had this other podcast, Black Cowboys. Which
is so good. And I wish everyone, it's great Western adventure stories.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
It was fun to make. And I love being able to do a whole episode on Cherokee Bill because he's not generally remembered these days.
No.
But as you can read from this New York City newspaper in 1898, he's a nationally famous outlaw at the time. He's somebody you use as like a high watermark, a comparison, and so is Belle Starr.
Yeah.
In fact, by the way, Cherokee Bill was so famous at one time, the president of the United States, Grover Cleveland, considered giving him a pardon.
I love it.
And also the U.S. Supreme Court considered his case when he had an appeal to his death sentence from hanging Judge Parker.
We need a straight up Cherokee Bill movie.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
His own thing.
I wish that Hollywood had a little more excitement about such ideas these days. No, also, by the way, get this. When Cherokee Bill was locked up and escaped, a fellow inmate ended up shouting for a guard to stop his escape.
Oh, really?
And that outlaw's name was Henry Starr, nephew of Sam Starr, a.k.a. the husband of Belle Starr.
No way.
Yeah, Indian Territory, all these stories always splash into each other.
Why was he ratting him out for escaping?
You listen to the episode and you can find out. So that same outlaw, Henry Starr, he did later receive a presidential pardon from Teddy Roosevelt for his bravery standing up to the outlaw Cherokee Bill.
Okay, yeah.
And for his assistance, obviously, with the recapture.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is, black cowboys, native outlaws, Confederate bushwhackers, they all have this mixed up history together in the land we call the Indian Territory.
Yeah.
So back to Cora Hubbard, Lady Bandit. Now, as it turns out, Cora Hubbard was also a native outlaw. As she told reporters at the time, I am about 1/8 Cherokee.
Was she a descendant of a Cherokee princess?
No, her father was a Union Army veteran, and he was also a quarter Cherokee, like legit a quarter Cherokee.
Okay,
yeah.
actually was.
So Cora Hubbard is born in Ohio in February of 1877. The Hubbard family, they make their home in Missouri, across the border from Indian Territory. When she's 7 years old, her mother passes away in the Chickasaw Nation in Indian Territory.
Yeah.
And after that, her family moves, her father and then eventually her new stepmother, they moved to Kansas to a place called Weir City. Mm-hmm. That's where was raised with her many older brothers, like men who were known to be a wild bunch, pardon the pun. Now, as the Philadelphia Inquirer reported in its September 12th, 1897 edition, quote, Cora is indeed a complex and many-sided character. She comes of a family that for the most part has gone to the bad. Her brothers have been rough and wild, and the greatest virtue of them in their eyes has been daredevil bravery, and Cora has probably followed along the same lines as nearly as a woman could, and has developed into the most wonderful new woman of the criminal type that the West has yet produced. In other words, a lady bandit.
A lady bandit. I love the language of it, and that there's so much judgment slathered on it.
Yes.
That the whole family goes bad.
Yes.
And which is a sort of small town notion that, having lived for a time in a small town, but not being of a small town, finding that you're tied to your family name for good or for bad. But then also this excitement is like, she's the type of the new, to quote Whitman.
They still got to sell papers.
But yeah. So it's really exciting, but let's judge her. But isn't it cool? But let's judge her. But we do that still.
Oh, and America does love a criminal.
Yep.
Now, as the Philadelphia Inquirer reported in its September 12th, 1897 edition, you notice I'm reading from East Coast papers.
Yeah.
They're super excited. This was the end of the Wild West.
That's the thing. In this era, these were the fantastic tales of adventure.
Totally. Dime store novel material had been generated now for like a generation at least, maybe more.
And then you start to see too, as you get later into the century, of all the Yukon tales and Alaska.
That, by the way, the Yukon Gold Rush starts in 1897.
Yeah.
And Jack London goes up there and gets all the inspiration for his stories. That's all happening at this exact same time.
And people all over the country are reading about it in the papers because it's a very similar to the Wild West stories. It's a climate and a scene that is so foreign to them, but still American. Still America, or in Alaska, it's territorial. But at the same, it was like something that you couldn't conceive of in Alaska, the freezing temperatures and the desolation and the wilderness. And then for the West, the West, you just have like, there's this vast expanses and this lawlessness and creatures, animals that you've never seen,
Totally.
In the city or
And
whatever.
also like all the instant death, lots of ways to die. And then there's like the natives. So it's a connection to America's past. It's vast and quickly dwindling away and disappearing.
Yeah.
So back to the Philadelphia Inquirer, the September 12th, 1897 edition. They informed readers that, quote, in conversation, Cora Hubbard is apt, and she has received a common school education, uses correct English for the most part, and speaks in a clear tone. When she wishes to be emphatic, she intersperses her sentences with an expressive damn or damned in a way that gives the impression that any old time she pleases, she could fire a volley of oaths that would make the most profane desperado look to his laurels. She writes well. I love that one. That last line, she writes well, that may have come from her voracious reading, because as she told the Philadelphia Inquirer in that same edition, quote, I liked reading better than anything else, and I used to read Wild West novels by the dozens when the teacher was not looking. I read the history of the James boys through twice. My brothers read them, and I did whatever they did. I was an expert shot.
I love it.
Now, that's her girlhood, right? Reading about Jesse James and Frank James
awesome.
and then big robbing banks and getting into trouble. And her brothers, too. And then she's out there firing rifles and revolvers enough that she's got deadly aim, like she can dot the eye in a squirrel.
Yeah.
Now, as sadly was common at that time, though, her childhood, her girlhood ends early when she's married off. Back to the Philadelphia Inquirer. Cora Hubbard said, and I quote, I was married when I was 15 years old to Joseph Russell and lived with him 7 months.
Oh, God.
Sure.
How old was Joseph?
Oh, yeah, I did not know. But like many women of her day, she finds that marriage is not a good match.
15.
At 15. And as she put it, he was not a bit of count, too ornery. Not a bit of count.
And the thing is, too, it's 15 and a head full of dreams.
Oh, totally.
It's not like she's thinking, like, this is what I want, and she's been kind of working toward it. This is not a girl who imagines her wedding.
No, there's no debutante coming out ball for her. Yeah.
No, she wants to be a cowboy.
Completely. So what does she do once she's got her divorce at age 15 or 16?
Good God, too. Yeah.
Newly separated, she gets by selling whiskey to bootleggers in the Indian Territory.
The old teen divorcee.
No, seriously, she tells it, I got a divorce and went to Vanita, Indian Territory, and stayed with an Indian woman. So just like her mother, she runs back to the Indian Territory and then finds some people who care for her and take her in and offer her community. So at this point, we got a young wannabe outlaw. She's familiar with the Dutton gang, but she's not yet a full-on outlaw. As she recalled, I was acquainted with the Daltons, but I never ran with them. I was never with them on a raid. I heard a good deal about them and their ways. They were nice men, open-handed, and free-hearted. I used to meet them at dances. To tell the truth, Bob Dalton used to be a sweetheart of mine. We used to go together, but I never went on any raids with him. He visited me and took me to the dances.
They just dated. They didn't go on raids
Right? You can hear she's still a teenager girl at heart, despite her outlaw leanings.
Well, and I'm fixated on this divorce. What does it take in that time at that age to get a divorce?
Yeah, I mean, before a judge or lawyer, there's a lot of the same stuff. You couldn't just say, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you.
No, of course, but I'm just saying, what it takes, it's the bar, I think, is far higher at that point than, she doesn't have the autonomy that women
but
have
I think
today,
though,
so
if she can go before a justice of the peace, I think it wasn't impossible. Yeah, it wasn't impossibly difficult.
That's wild.
But because like you said, she's 15. She still wants to go to dances with bad boys who are her known outlaws.
Exactly.
Which is so relatable,
Honestly, for real.
So Cora Hubbard, she shares with the readers of the New York World newspaper about how her criminal career begins. And she said, quote, I was arrested at Baxter Springs, Kansas in 1894 on the charge of horse stealing. They did not get me until after I had knocked one of the officers down with my 6-shooter. They were unable to prove the charge and I was turned loose, but was rearrested for street walking and fined $50, which I paid.
Wow.
Right? Says so much so quickly.
There's a lot. I'm like, my brain's still churning. First of all, pew, pew, just shooting at the cops.
Doesn't take him out, but knocks him down.
That's not what did it.
No.
Street walking, I mean,
then they shamed her,
prostitution.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So by age 17, she's already an outlaw. Her life path has already started to take shape, and it's romance that pulls her further down the outlaw path.
Oh, no.
Yeah, soon comes her second marriage to a man named Bud Parker. And just like her first marriage, it also doesn't last long because when he brings her home to his ranch, she meets his handsome and dangerous ranch hand, a 23-year-old cowboy by the name of John Sheets, hubba hubba, as you would say. So now there's also another ranch hand working there, a 32-year-old cowboy named Whit Tennyson. Now
That's a name right there.
Whit, W-H-I-T, Whit Tennyson, and Tennyson with a Y.
But so is he Whitman Tennyson?
That's what I figured, but I don't know.
Well-read parents?
That's what I'm guessing.
I think so.
No, he's a true outlaw, a bank robber by trade, as he tells anybody who asks. Now, he's also, by the way, living in the same area at this same time are two of Cora's older brothers, Bill Hubbard and Al Hubbard. So altogether, this group kind of comes together and they decide, we should become a new outlaw gang.
Yeah, why not?
She's like, I read the books. I know the stuff. Exactly. Whit's done it a couple times. So Cora's older brother, Bill Hubbard, he picks their first target, the McDonald County Bank in Pineville.
Okay.
He'd lived in this town and he's familiar with the bank. From memory, he draws up a blueprint of the bank. Like, we go in this door and there's a safe over here.
Oh, wow.
It's basically like the equivalent of like a stick figure drawing, but for a bank.
He's been clocking it.
No. They come up with this plan as to how they can rob the bank. So as Cora told the reporters from the New York World newspaper, quote, "My brother, Bill Hubbard, who I will fix when I get out, had been staying around Pineville last summer, and he told us there was between $6,000 and $7,000 in money on deposit there all the time, and how we could get in and get out. So we concluded we would go after it."
Why not?
Yeah, $6,000, $7,000, it's a ton.
Hey.
Now, you see, the trouble for this gang is they're a bunch of wannabe outlaws. So their plans are doomed long before they even start. They just don't know it.
Well, they're like the equivalent of the people who watch Heat.
Yes.
That's their thing.
The Michael Mann School of Criminology.
Yes, but they don't have the films yet, and so they're just reading books.
They're just reading Jesse James Dime novels.
Yeah, which is, pretty much the same thing.
How does it all play out? Great question, Elizabeth.
I'm so good at these questions.
You're so curious.
I really am. I have a very curious mind.
So before this newly formed outlaw gang is set to saddle up and boldly ride, to quote the poem El Dorado, which is one of my favorites, Cora's other brother, Al Hubbard, he backs out of the whole, let's rob a bank idea. And then so does her new husband, Bud Parker. So Cora is incensed. She tells Bud Parker that she can't stay with a, quote, a damn coward.
Oh.
Yeah, you half a man in my eyes.
Fighting words.
So without her brother and her second husband, the new outlaw gang treks off for Indian Territory. Meanwhile, Cora and that handsome and dangerous cowboy, John Sheets, they become both outlaws and lovers, boom, at the same time.
He's an outlaw in the streets and a John in the sheets.
I'm going to give you that one.
Thank you.
Now, in June 2004 issue of Wild West magazine, the writer Larry Wood, he outlined how Cora Hubbard moved deeper into her new outlaw life. As Larry Wood put it, quote, "The downside gang stopped at Coffeyville, Kansas, long enough for Sheets to buy a Winchester and ammunition, and then continued to Cora's hometown of Weir City, Kansas, where her father, Sam Hubbard, had worked in the coal mines." So her father's working away. She goes home with her new third lover boy, her new man. When Cora arrives at her family's ranch, her father is shocked at the sight of his daughter, right? For one, she no longer looks like his daughter. Her hair is now cut short, like a man's haircut.
Okay.
She's also wearing men's clothing, and she has this new man in her life that he's not seen any letters about.
Right.
And so it's also confusing for her father, but he just chalks it up to his daughter being a poor, motherless girl because, yeah, right? So he takes her and her two outlaw friends in, and he lets them stay with him. And he's like, "What's your name? Whit? Nice to meet you," right? And so they start to prep for their new bank job at her father's ranch or farm. Now, back to Cora Hubbard's account for the World newspaper, quote, "We got our Winchesters and 6-shooters in shape and started on horseback from Weir City, Kansas to Pineville, a distance of 75 miles. The Sunday before the robbery, we spent near Neosho in the hills, passed through the town at midnight, and reached Pineville before daylight. So she's like, they're doing the traditional, like, we're going to ride through the bush, sleep out in the middle of nowhere, make a fire, that whole bit.
Yeah.
They get to Pineville just before daylight. At this point, it's August 17th, 1897. This outlaw gang, they ride into town. Bill Hubbard, her brother, stays outside of town. He doesn't go in for the bank job. So it's just the three cowboys, John Sheets, Whit Tennyson, and Cora Hubbard. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, Cora Hubbard, quote, carried a repeating rifle over the pommel of her saddle. The belt around her waist contained 2 revolvers and 1 Bowie knife.
Yeah, so girl.
She's coming in strapped, right?
Right?
So as Cora Hubbard tells the reporter from the New York World newspaper, quote, about 10 o'clock, we rode up to the bank and dismounted. I was left in charge of the horses while John and Tennyson went into the bank. There were a few people on the street, and they had but little difficulty in getting the money. Not a shot was fired, but I thought I was going to have to pump it into one old cuss who persisted in standing and watching me. Also a young fellow who acted as green as a pumpkin, but when I told him to hide out, he fairly raised the dust.
Nice.
I love fairly raised the dust. So when Cora tells this same story to the reporter from the Philadelphia Inquirer, she also recounted a couple other details like how, quote, there wasn't a man on that street that would have dared to enter that door. Well, I could have held up that little town all by myself if I had wanted to. When the men in the street became excited, I pointed my revolver and said, any man that tries to cross that door dies.
Yes.
Right? So while Cora's standing watch and her new beau, John Sheets, and the experienced bank robber, Whit Tennyson, sneak around the bank and they enter from the back. Once inside, they pull their weapons. They show their Winchester rifles to the bank president, this cat, A.V. Manning, and the cashier, John Shields, and the county treasurer, this cat, Marcus Lamance. Now, the outlaws announce, we're here for the money and we want it damn quick, right? Just classic Wild West bank robbery style. To make it clear that they are not men to be effed with, John Sheets turns his Winchester on the cashier, the kid Shields, and knocks him to the floor. Just doubles him up. He goes down on all fours.
Oh, with the butt of it?
Actually with the front, but yeah.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, with the muzzle. So the bank president nods to the cashier.
That's not gun-safe behavior.
That is not.
No.
But it'll get attention. Now, the bank president nods to the cashier Shields to do as instructed, like, give him the money damn quick.
Right.
And he gets it, and he fills the sack with coins and paper money to the tune of $589.23, which is a far cry from the $5,000 or $6,000 that they thought they'd get.
Yeah, it is.
Now, we do have an eyewitness account from one of the townsfolk in the January 15th, 1939 edition of the Tulsa Tribune. They recalled this bank robbery that was still a legend in the area some 40 years later.
Wow.
Right? Like the older, like the gray hairs, the silver tops, they're all like, I remember when I was a boy, right? So the eyewitness is this cat, Claude Duval, who was the son of the local Pineville Herald newspaper publisher, a man who was named Clabe Duval, which I have to assume is short for Claiborne.
Yeah, C-L-A-B-E.
C-L-A-I-B.
C-L-A-I-B.
Yeah, Clabe Duval.
Claiborne. Yeah,
Now,
that would be my guess.
So either way.
That's a great Western name.
Totally.
Clabe.
You can't fake that.
No, you cannot.
So the son, Claude, he, quote,
Claude and Clabe.
explains the fear this lady bandit caused as best as he can, decades later, right? So he remembers standing guard at the front steps of the bank, this Cora Hubbard, or as Claude recalled, small young man or boy, part Indian, right? That's how he thought she was when he was a kid. And then out comes the rest of the outlaw gang. Because remember, she's got the short hair, wearing the men's
long
clothes.
hair and a dress is not practical in that life.
Definitely not. But I mean, it is common. So
she's not there for the male gaze. She's there for function.
Yes. She's wearing like what do you call it? Dungarees, basically.
Yes.
So she's like, I've got to get over on a horse.
So chic.
Get off the horse. I ain't wearing a skirt.
And like
skirt,
a cute pixie cut. Get out of here.
Doesn't even ride side saddle.
No.
So once the bank robbers, they get their money, right? John Sheets pushes the cashier Shields and bank president A.V. Manning ahead of them as they exit the bank, right? And the reason why is they want to keep their prisoners close to them because as Claude tells it, quote, inside of 3 minutes, they had secured the cash and started for their horses, compelling Shields and Manning to march at a lively trot in front of them, thus preventing any shots being fired as they retreated. So they're doing like the classic, like, stay close to me.
Yeah,
and they walk them out. Now, the bank's been robbed. The bank robbers have successfully escaped and reunited with their lookout, Cora. How does this brand new gang of outlaws escape the town?
That's a great question,
they
Zaron.
may
I'm
have to
glad you
shoot their
asked.
way out of town. And if they're successful at that, a posse will likely be formed to chase them down. It's really long, but great question, Elizabeth. To answer that, I want to tell you this. Close your eyes. I'd like you to picture it.
My eyes are closed.
It was a quiet morning in the tiny town of Pineville. Fat and fluffy white cumulus clouds crowd the sky. They look like sheep in a meadow. A slight breeze has been blowing the dust from the unpaved main street. And you've been doing your morning feeding, picking from the pollen on offer from a pile of day-old flowers left as refuse in an alleyway, because you, Elizabeth, are a brilliant blue butterfly. But your breakfast of yellow pollen granules is interrupted when 3 cowboys flee the town's bank. You flit your wings, take to the air as the bank robbers rush to mount their horses. You float up lazily as the bank robbers fire their pistols into the air, meant to scare off any pain-in-the-neck innocent bystanders. It works beautifully. However, now you are sort of flitting along, and right smack dab in their path to escape as the bank robbers charge out of town on horseback. Unfortunately for you, you are not quick enough to flit out of their way. Your ever-soft wings get pinned against the saddle of one of the bank robbers' horses, and just like that, you too are fleeing the town, now an unwitting stowaway. The hooves of the 3 horses pound the earth as the riders shout encouragement at their steeds. You just try not to get crushed in all the commotion. You are a delicate butterfly. The thunderous clatter of hooves against the hard-packed earth of the town's main street soon gives way to the softer sound of the horses galloping across tall, sun-dried yellow grass. The riders next steer their horses into the woods and slow down to a trot. The riders avoid the low branches. The horses finally come to a stop in a clearing in the woods where a 4th rider joins them. The 3 greet this 4th man in friendly tones. At least there won't be any more shouting and shooting, you think. You wish to flit off on your own, but in their hasty retreat, your wings got stuck to the leather of the saddle, and so now you watch the robbers as they dump the sacks of coins and paper money. The bank robbers laugh at their success as they divide up the loot. Once each bank robber has their fair share of the stolen cash, they give their horses a kick in the sides and gallop off. But one of the horses is breathing hard and rough. It can't go on like this. You hear one of the bank robbers point out a boy on horseback in the distance there across a field, making his way down an old country road. The bank robbers ride off in his direction. You see the boy turn as the now 4 riders approach. The boy puts on a brave face right up until one of the bank robbers draws his 6-shooter and orders the boy down from his horse. His eyes now filled with fear, he does as he's told. The bank robber climbs off his horse and takes the reins of the boys. He mounts the beautiful animal. He asks the horse's name. The boy sputters out, "Birdie? We call him Birdie?" The bank robber tells the boys that's a good name, and he's trading horses with him, and you be good to his horse. The boy just nods. He watches almost wordlessly as the bank robbers gallop away and disappear over a rise in the country road. It turns out that boy is the son of the bank cashier. You couldn't possibly know that, but this means the cashier has been robbed twice in one morning. Meanwhile, you finally get free of that saddle and flit up into the cloudy sky. What a morning it's been for you. Just a simple prairie butterfly. Now, there you go, Elizabeth. As you just saw and heard, these wannabe outlaws did successfully rob a bank. They did the thing I always talk about. They got away with it. They managed to mount horses, ride for the territory with a posse on their heels. But what this gang of outlaws doesn't know is that they're up against the dawning era of modernity.
Oh, no.
Yes, as in the townspeople use the telegraph to contact other towns and inform them they've just been robbed.
Yeah.
And 5 miles away is the town of Noel, where danger awaits. Let's take a little break, and when we get back, we will find how that danger plays out.
Okay.
Elizabeth.
Zaron.
How you digging this? You like being a butterfly?
I love being a butterfly.
I thought you might like
That's
that.
fun for me. And then
I thought it'd be better than being like a housefly or a horsefly.
Well, sometimes you just don't get a choice in whatever next life.
Your reincarnated form.
Yeah, what am I going to do? It is what it is. But I'm loving these adventure tales. I like to remove myself from the today.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought.
And
I thought it'd be
live in
fun.
this past is fun.
And this is an engrossing one, so.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so as I told you just a second ago, the era of modernity is dawning. So we do have the telegraph, and so it's able to connect people with not telephone poles, but telegraph poles.
And the internet.
There's wires that are running the length
and cable TV.
from town to town. So they use this, right? And when the telegram arrives with its message, soon enough, another posse is formed in the town of Noel. Mm-hmm. These posse members are told to be on the lookout for 3 bank robbers, one of whom is, quote, a small young man or boy, part Indian. Now, the posse in Noel is quick to their horses. They head out of town, and they manage to link up with the first posse, the one from Pineville, and together they form this sort of super posse. Now, together, they also chase down the outlaw gang. However, the men are smart about it. This ain't the first time they formed a posse, so rather than chase after the bank robbers, they anticipate where the bank robbers will go next, and they circle around to lay in wait and ambush them when the outlaws ride into the scene. As Cora recalled it to the New York World News, quote, "We had encountered no trouble until very near sundown when we met a posse of about a half dozen citizens near Noel." Now that is after the surprise. She's telling this, right? She's telling this after much later. I will tell you how they actually came across the posse because it's a much better version. So this story only gets better and better because remember, they successfully robbed a bank for 1/10 of the money that they expected to be there. They've bullied a child into stealing his horse. And the way that it comes undone for them is more examples of don't be a wannabe outlaw who's never been a bank robber and decide I'm committing fully, right?
Yeah.
Like, you may want to get at least 2 people who've done it before, not just old Whit Tennyson.
You got to do more than just watch Heat.
Yeah, so, and like many criminals we cover, this crew also finds the best laid plans can be undone by things like paperwork or a miscalculation. Or in their case, a betrayal. But we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But first, we need to escape this super posse. So when the 3 bank robbers ride out of town, they linked up with Cora's brother's Bill. He reconnects with them. So now it's actually a 4-person band of outlaws that's riding hard for the territory. They gallop through dry ravines, rocky passes. They weave their way through woods and brambles until finally come to this dry gulch, the same gulch where the super posse is lying in wait to ambush them. Mm-hmm. So this posse outnumbers them, these wannabe bank robbers, about 2 to 1. So right off the bat, the odds aren't in their favor. But the wannabe bank robbers have another problem facing them. They make all kinds of rookie mistakes when their speedy retreat runs into a full-on gunfight.
Oh, no.
Yeah, here's how Cora Hubbard recounts their flight to freedom. She told the New York World newspaper in February 7th, 1898 edition, quote, "We were riding single file with Tennyson in the lead when the posse opened fire on us without a moment's warning. Tennyson's pony wheeled and run at the first fire. And that was the last we saw that coward." So to summarize,
the horse is the coward or Tennyson?
Whit Tennyson. He's riding the horse that he stole from the cashier's son.
Sure.
The horse called Birdie. And when the fire and start, Birdie freaks out. I've never been in such a situation like this, right?
I'm not like this.
So the steed,
I come from a good family.
He tosses Whit Tennyson off his back and the horse bolts, right?
Oh, okay.
Leaving Tennyson in the dirt. Meanwhile, he's also been shot. So he's gunshot alone and thrown from a horse.
Yeah, and she calls him a coward?
Well, there's a reason for that, but he's not faring well. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, her brother Bill, who is not shot, he rides off in his own direction, right? He's like, I'm taking off, just cuts for the tree line.
I love that she complained that it was without warning.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh, yoo-hoo. Get ready.
You hear us coming. We're over here by the rocks. So what about Cora and her lover, John Sheets?
Yeah.
Great question, Elizabeth.
I know.
According to the story Cora tells the Philadelphia Inquirer, there's a lot more action and chaos than she summed up earlier. As she puts it, quote, "Then we mounted and made for Noel, and the posse caught up with us and began shooting. Bill joined us out of Pineville, so we returned fire. I shot more than 40 shots. They shot John Sheets' horse from under him and his revolver out of his hand. He got his revolver again, and we shot back thick and fast. Then they shot my horse from under me and my revolver out of my hand. My Winchester was strapped to my saddle, and I went right after it while they were shooting. I got my Winchester quick and began firing it. I wanted to go back and fight them, but John wouldn't do it. That was his way. He didn't want to kill anybody and never did kill anybody. I aimed to hurt them fellas, and I guess we scared them. So,
whoa.
That's how she tells it. Now,
Goodness.
that's not also, by the way, not exactly the same story that the Philadelphia Inquirer tells. The writer summarizes all these events from different perspectives.
Yeah.
And he says, quote, "The vigilantes thought they had her at last, but before they could reach the spot, the girl in the clothing of a cowboy had mounted the riderless horse of the wounded robber and was on her way, turning in her saddle every minute to let loose a few bullets with the evident intention of killing one or more of her pursuers. Had she used her rifle, the results might have been different, but she did not and was out of pistol range. The last they saw of the girl was when she was just entering a rocky place where she would soon be hidden by the trees. Then the girl turned in her saddle and fired 6 rapid shots from her revolver, shots ringing defiance to the people who believe in law and order." Now, notice that the paper makes her out to be some kind of hardened criminal,
Sure.
a real badass, while her own account seems a little bit more plausible.
Well, yeah.
So, regardless of which version of events you choose to believe, this much is clear. Her brother Bill basically links back up with them outside of town. When they're ambushed, Whit Tennyson gets shot and his horse dumps him. He runs off. Meanwhile, brother Bill, he escapes, but her lover John Sheets gets his horse shot out from him, his gun shot out of his hand. Cora has the same thing happen to her. Then she gets back on her horse, has to go save her lover, which she does using her Winchester rifle as cover. Then she wants to kill these members of the super posse, but cooler head of John Sheets prevails. So the lovers now ride off together on one horse and they make it to the woods. Where then, what do next, Elizabeth? They ditch their horse and they decide to flee on foot.
Okay.
The horse had been shot. So that's why. Yeah. So what happens next? Great question,
That is
Elizabeth.
so good.
Well, for one, the posse fails to find Whit Tennyson.
Okay.
Remember, he got shot first off his horse. He somehow skunks off and nobody finds him, right? But the posse does then find the horse Birdie, who's just over there quietly grazing on grass.
Birdie's like, please take me back to normal people.
Yeah, exclude me from this narrative. I do not want to be perceived in this moment.
Hands up.
Yeah. So Cora's brother Bill, as I told you, he successfully flees on horseback, goes his own way. Meanwhile, Cora and John Sheets, who are now on foot, try to make their escape with the super posse chasing after him.
Yeah.
Back to Cora's account. She says gunfire, quote, knocked John from his horse, and then when he got up, he acted dazed, and I thought he was killed. His horse ran away, and I helped him on behind me, and we went back a short distance, and when we abandoned the horse, we took to the woods, where we remained until dark. So now they're hiding out in the forested woods, right?
He's got a concussion.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's been shot, at least, or had his gun shot out of his hand, possibly been shot. Turns out...
But they've all been thrown from these horses, too.
Oh, yeah.
Probably got broken ribs.
Oh, completely. And as Cora told the New York World, quote, after dark, we took off our shoes so as not to make much noise and proceeded on foot toward the territory. The next day, we camped near a nice stream of cold water, and I dressed and nursed John's gunshot wounds, which consisted of 12 shots in the arms, breast, and face.
What?
Yeah, he's not gunshot. He's gunshot up.
12.
12, yes. Different shots.
Dang.
Yeah. So some of this is like birdshot shotgun stuff, so it's not just like he's got 12 slugs in him.
But still.
But he's been shot, yeah.
He has 12 holes
12
that he didn't
bullet
have
wounds, yes.
8 hours earlier.
Yes. So the next day, the posse is still at it, right? And the first person that the super posse does find is Whit Tennyson. Because folks in Pineville, they receive word from a neighboring town called Southwest City.
Perfect.
It sounds like a movie
literal.
city.
Yeah.
In Missouri, that a stranger showed up in town and ordered breakfast. Now, the man fit the description of one of the bank robbers that had hit Pineville, and the more important part is that the stranger paid for his breakfast in pennies, which was suspicious because the bank robbers had stolen a mess of pennies. And everyone's like, if anyone shows up with a bunch of pennies, you let us know.
Wait, he paid in oh,
Yes.
guys.
So the super posse reforms and they ride out and they go check if this is their man.
Like, think about how many, like, you spoke recently about the football player who didn't anticipate the weight.
Yes.
Of the bills, but like they've just got sacks and sacks of
coins.
Pennies.
Yeah, all sorts of different coins.
And let's just say it's all pennies, and that's how they got $500.
But they do have a lot of pennies.
A lot of pennies.
Yeah. So Southwest City is about 25 miles from Pineville. So Whit Tennyson, he was also, by the way, gunshot and thrown from a horse. He walks 20 or so miles, I'm assuming through most of the night.
Yeah.
Maybe he stole another horse, but because when the posse catches up to him, he's in the Indian Territory, about 20 miles deep into the territory. This man has covered some ground.
Yeah.
Right? But it doesn't last because the posse gets a tip about this wounded man holed up in a cabin in Indian Territory from the people who were like, oh yeah, he was here, had breakfast here, paid with pennies, right?
I love that he had breakfast. He's like, I'm starving.
Yeah, and then he just walked off out of town.
It's like, eggs over easy.
Yeah, I need to fill these holes in me.
Do you guys do like brunch?
Yeah. Do you have a steak and egg special? So the super posse goes out to this cabin in Indian Territory, and that's right where they find him, armed with a .45 revolver and a Winchester rifle, but he doesn't put up a fight. Instead, gunshot as he is, he just gives up. And they find on him $121.50 of the stolen money.
Pennies.
Yeah. So he gets arrested without incident. Posse takes him to jail. Once he's in jail, do you think he clams up like a real badass bank robber should?
No.
Remember, he's the professional. So, or do you think he flips on his comrades and tells all that he knows?
No, he's got a belly full of avocado toast. There's no telling what he'll do.
He wants to survive. He needs the doc to fix him up. So he says all that he can.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, if you guess he tells everything he knows, you would be right.
Yay,
Whit tells
ding,
the
ding,
posse that Cora and her brother Bill, here's where they live. With them is her lover John Sheets. They're all from Weir City, and they're likely headed to her father's place. I can draw you a map, right? So back to John Sheets and Cora, who are, by the way, still on foot. And I should mention, barefoot.
That's crazy.
So according to what she told the reporter from the New York World, quote, the next night we proceeded as before, and the following morning found us at Grove, Indian Territory, God's country for bandits, where I purchased shoes for both of us and medicine for John. While in the store, I heard them tell about the arrested Tennyson for robbing the Pineville Bank and feared that coward would give us all away in order to save his own hide. Now,
and she paid in pennies.
So she may not have been an outlaw for long, but Cora did have good people sense, right?
Yeah.
Because she knew that Whit was not worth a and she was right. So at this point, local papers start running with the story of the bank robbery, the attempted escape, the posse, the ambush, the gunfight, the capture of Whit Tennyson. They got a lot to write about. Not to be outdone by the back east newspapers, the local papers run with the notion that Cora Hubbard is the worst outlaw the territory has seen since, you guessed it, Belle Star. The papers called her the second Belle Star. One paper even went with this headline, Female Bandit rivals the daring deeds of Belle Star and Kate Bender. Now, who's Kate Bender? Great question, Elizabeth.
I regret asking.
She wasn't an outlaw. She was the leader of a thrill kill family that murdered 8 people in Kansas back in 1870. So we're talking 27 years earlier. So it's like they're basically calling her the female Charles Manson.
Yeah,
like
a thrill kill cult.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. But also keep in mind, so far this group has yet to kill anyone. They've gotten in a gunfight.
Oh, but yeah, they've gone through a lot of ammo.
Yeah, but they're being compared to a thrill kill family from 27 years earlier. So now we're starting to get Cora Hubbard, Lady Bandit, right? Who's the 19th century female Charles Manson. So back to Cora Hubbard's account of what happens next. As she told the New York World newspaper, quote, John's wounds had improved, and we walked to Fairland, where we hired a rig and went to Blue Jacket on the Katy and took the train for Parsons, Kansas. Here I left John and went home against his wishes, but I owed my father $200 and I wanted to pay it. So to recap now, they've walked to town, rented a wagon, rode to a different town, caught a train that takes them to a town not too far from where her family farm is located in Weir City.
Yeah.
But she now leaves John Sheets there in this other town because he's gunshot with the 12 bullet wounds.
Right.
And ailing. Then she and her brother Bill walk back to their father's house. The plan is once John Sheets rests a day or two, he'll meet up with Cora in Weir City. Just rest up a day or two from these 12 bullet holes.
Catch your breath. It's okay.
And then the two of them plan to flee over the border to where? Iowa. We can just make it to Iowa.
It was like Mexico?
Yeah, the 99 counties of freedom. So, except for remember, Whit Tennyson has told the posse that Cora and her brother Bill and John Sheets are headed back to Weir City. Not only that, he's drawn a map to their father's place.
Oh, you're kidding.
So both sides arrive in town at about the same time.
Yeah.
Cora does make it to her father's house. When the posse arrives in town, they first go to the marshal and they ask for his help. And he's like, I know Sam Hubbard. I'll go out to Sam Hubbard's place. So the marshal, he's savvy. He doesn't go out and go, where's your boy and where's your daughter? He rides out and he goes, I need to borrow your copper kettle. And it does like a whole, like, exactly.
Smart.
So at this point, he talks to Sam Hubbard, and when he's there, he sees Cora Hubbard. He identifies her. He's like, okay.
Who's that little boy?
Exactly. Yeah, Indian boy over there. Who is that? I don't recognize him. So he doesn't arrest her, though. Instead, he rides back to town to alert the posse where Cora is. So now the posse hops back in the saddles, and they all ride out to the Hubbard farm.
When they are mad.
Oh, yeah. And they also now have picked up some marshal's deputies and sheriff's deputies. So before
it's like mega super posse.
Oh, exactly. But now before they get out of town, this mega posse, who do they see walking around in town? None other than Bill Hubbard. So, of course, they arrest him, and they make a quick detour to drop him back off at the marshal's jail. Then they ride out to the Hubbard farm.
Yeah.
They're just picking them off one at a time in it, right? So when this mega posse gets to the house, one of the deputy marshals knocks on the door using his rifle. Once again, he uses the muzzle end.
What is this?
I don't know, but as Jackie Gleason's once said in Smokey and the Bandit, that's what you call an attention getter. So it does the trick. It gets their attention. Cora comes to the door, opens it, and she finds a Winchester rifle pointed right at her, like when she opens the door.
Yeah.
She's ordered to put her hands up and come along without a fight. She does as instructed. She pads out of the house barefoot, wearing a calico dress. She calmly greets the posse, reportedly without a trace of fear. As one eyewitness put it, she was, quote, like a child at play putting up its hands before a toy pistol. And boom, off she goes to jail. Now, the way Cora recounts her capture gives far more detail because she likes to read. So as she told the Philadelphia Inquirer, quote, when the officers came to Ware City, I had just got home and was getting ready to go to sleep. And I didn't have on nothing but my tea gown and underclothes. They didn't give me time to dress. Marshal Hatton is a sure coward. He brought about 25 men armed with revolvers and Winchesters. He said, you hold up your hands or I will kill you. I never threw it up in my hands. I stood and laughed. Then the fellows formed around the house and they walked me out in the street and didn't give me time to dress. So now she's run out in the street barefoot in a calico dress.
That must have made them so mad that she was not scared of them.
Oh, yeah,
because they all traffic it to this day. They all traffic in the fear.
Mm-hmm. And the domination.
Man, she pushed their buttons.
Now, of course, when she's arrested, Cora feels betrayed by her brother Bill, who gave her up, and by Whit Tennyson, who gave her up. And also, Brother Bill was the one who, it was his idea to rob the bank.
Yes.
And it was Whit Tennyson's idea, like, yeah, I've done it before. We can do it. So the two, tough talkers end up being the biggest punks.
Right.
As Cora told the Philadelphia Inquirer, my brother gave the whole thing away. I'll show him when I get hold of him. Ooh. So she's like, put me in the men's side of the prison. So August 21st now, 1897, Cora Hubbard and her nitwit brother Bill are arrested. Her lover John Sheets eventually gets rounded up a day or two later because he does show up all gunshot up.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, he makes it, just like he promised her.
He's good to his word.
She's got one good man in her life.
That's right.
So when a reporter from the St. Louis Globe-Democrat arrives to interview Cora in jail, she gives this exhibition of what a badass outlaw she believes herself to be. As the Globe-Democrat reports, quote, an empty Winchester rifle was handled by her, and she handled it like an experienced shot. She talked about Belle Starr, a noted Indian Territory desperado, and said she'd seen her, but would not tell where. So she's linking herself to the great outlaws at this point. Now, the reporter from the Globe-Democrat, he's duly impressed, and he writes that, quote, she is seemingly perfectly fearless, and so appeared during the bank robbery when she was the coolest of the three, according to Cashier Shields. And also the same writer adds that, quote, she has the manners of a tough character and seemed to enjoy the notoriety she has attained. So basically, Cora's living it up in jail. She's finally made it to the high life she imagines, the notoriety. She's an outlaw. Her name will live for ages in Indian territory. And since hers is a short-lived outlaw career, the Philadelphia Inquirer is only too happy to oblige her and treat her like the outlaw she clearly wants to be. Yeah. So as the Inquirer writes, she's fairly well educated, but it is in shooting that she excels. It is said that she can outshoot any of the members of her gang, in spite of the fact that Cora Hubbard is probably the worst and wickedest woman on this part of the globe. She has never been known to drink any kind of intoxicating liquids, but when the gang makes a successful raid and she can get her hands on some good cigars, she takes her choice of the weeds and smokes to her heart's content. Right? So she's more man than everyone is essentially the implication, right?
Yeah.
And also the point of that quote is to kind of illustrate that American newspaper writers have always been unreliable because, right? Journalists tend to tell the story they prefer rather than the one that's right there before them.
Well, and in those days too, with all the yellow journalism, it was like, it's not even what you prefer. What's going to sell them? It's like the Daily Mail.
Well, that's what they prefer is the selling.
Yeah. And what's then going to raise their own profile. Now, what I think is interesting is that around that time, they had all these like traveling shows, and not necessarily like a Wild Bill Hickok type thing, but of that, but all
the Wild West shows,
and or just even oddities and performances. And we've talked about this with other outlaws of that era, that if they do a little bit of time, then they come out and they join those and they perform. And so
she's kind of basically building her legacy.
She's setting herself up for that, it sounds like. Yeah.
She wants to be the second Belle Star, right?
Yeah.
So, and not only does it bleed, it leads. So she didn't make anyone really bleed. So she's got to fictionalize it. And, that's what the journalists find. They decide, oh yeah, she's a rough and tumble, hard shooting female outlaw. And by God, that's what she is. So the Cora Hubbard Lady Bandit story, the Philadelphia Inquirer then embellishes. They describe her appearance and they sum up her home life like, Cora is, when she is at home, a passable girl, although the hard life has led its traces in her countenance. She's only 5 feet and 2 inches in height, rather stout, very active, and with a searching eye. She wears her hair cut short, and when on duty, that is, when about to commit a murder or some financial depredation, wears men's attire. Her home is at Weir City, Kansas, and she sometimes goes there to visit her father and mother, whom she regularly supplies with money on which they live an idle life. The mother and father know of her evil life, but they say they do not care so long as she keeps the financial end of their establishment in running order.
So they're just blowing up. They're expanding out stuff that just never happened.
Totally. And also in more modern parlance, it's the whole, she's no angel,
She's no angel, but also look at this oddity. Look at this freak.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's also lies, like her evil life and she's her many robberies
When
are paying for her father's life and the
yeah.
murders. None of this is true, right?
Yeah.
So to help along Cora's mythos when she's arrested, it's discovered that Cora's been carrying the outlaw Bob Dalton's pistol. Oh. So she tells the newspaper men that she first eased into outlaw life. Remember when she was going to dances with the Daltons? Yeah. And because she liked their ways. And so when they discover she's carrying Bob Dalton's gun, she tells reporters more honestly, quote, I got Bob Dalton's gun in Chetopa. I bought it from some fella. I knew the gun, and I haven't had it over 3 months. It hasn't the same handles it had, and it has been cut down some as it had a 12-inch bar.
Oh, dang.
That's a heck of a gun.
Yeah, it is.
So about her dressing like a man, Cora said, and I quote, I made a pretty good looking man. She also added that it wasn't her custom to wear men's clothes per se, or as she put it, I never wear men's clothes except when I go out on a raid. I like nice clothes as well as any woman. When I get out, I think I'll go back to teaching painting.
Oh,
right. In other words,
back to it.
Elizabeth Cora Hubbard, Lady Bandit, contains multitudes.
She does. Well, like I'm saying, it's practicality. Like she's not gonna get all gussied up.
Oh yeah, not at all. I remember she's also
on a raid.
She's talking about when I go out on a raid. Girl, you've been on one raid.
I know, right?
So that's so true. The Atchison Daily Globe newspaper, they also send out a reporter, and their September 14th, 1897 edition. The paper publishes its take on Cora Hubbard, and you'll note the paper also celebrates what they prefer to see rather than her multitudes. Yeah. So, and I quote, Cora Hubbard is a bank robber. She is a fine shot, an expert horsewoman, and a raider with a record. She is the newest of new women, right up to date, fearless, dogged, and desperate. At the age of 20, she rode with Bob Dalton in some of the bloodiest expeditions ever organized in the West. How many men she had killed may never be known. It's just all lies, right? Yeah. But I saved my favorite parts. While the robbery was in progress, a posse of citizens was formed and they gave chase to the highwaymen. A running skirmish ensued and many shots were exchanged. Cora Hubbard's hat was pierced by 3 bullets and her horse was shot and killed. Yet she escaped unharmed. Several officials of the bank and other citizens all over the plains of Oklahoma and Indian Territory were led by United States Marshals, but she did not give up the wild life of a highwayman until the gang was finally broken up. Bob Dalton was killed. Cherokee Bill was hanged, another of the gang was imprisoned, and the others were scattered. They're just throwing everything now into this story.
Well, Doolin Dalton.
She's with everybody. She's like... So, as I said, almost none of that account is true, but since it mentioned my man Cherokee Bill, I thought I'd throw it in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, here's how that same paper explains the meaning and motivation of Cora Hubbard, Lady Bandit, to their readers. Quote, the girl seems to have been fascinated with the danger of the life she had been leading, and when her precious brother Bill suggested to her that they rob a bank, she was right with him. It didn't take her 2 minutes to say yes. What did she care for the danger? She loved the excitement. Since the Dalton crowd had been scattered, she had pined for a taste of the old old life. Her nerves were getting rusty. They had been inactive so long. She wanted something to make them tingle and thrill, to warm her stagnated blood and make her pulse beat with the merry leap that it knew of old. What better than a bank robbery? Surely there could be nothing more to her liking. She found the excitement and she enjoyed it. She tried to escape, but failed, though she gave her pursuers a beautiful run for their money, the money she had stolen. She took her arrest philosophically and is prepared to go to the penitentiary if necessary.
Oh my God.
Like, they're just now just riffing. They're jazzing all over her story. Like, nothing anymore. No. There's like no connection to truth. But isn't that like, it's just such a charming set of delusions. And there's such vibrant turns of phrase. Now remember, this is a 20-year-old woman with one failed bank robbery on her record.
Exactly.
But the newspaper men make it out like she's Billy the Kid. So anyway, like I said earlier at the top, Americans, we will mythologize the hell out of a criminal.
Yes,
so okay, so now the wannabe bank robbers, they're all caught. What about the money they stole? Well, the marshals discover it's hidden on the Hubbard family farm. There's $25 buried in a hill of peppers, $141 buried in a hill of potatoes. Another 91 is discovered in a wagon that John Sheet had rode up in when he arrived at the Hubbard family farm. So they gather up all the money for the most part, but he wouldn't tell the law where the rest was buried. He was like, no, I'm going to need some when I get out. So when it's time for their trial, Cora Hubbard gets dressed back up in men's clothes and is handed an empty Winchester so she can pose for photographs for the newspaper men.
You're kidding.
So yeah, she basically her like, it's like, what did you wear that one Tuesday? This is not like in her normal attire, but she does it. We'll put the image up on Instagram. It's a fun photo. Anyway, after their trials, Cora Hubbard, John Sheets, Whit Tennyson, of course, are all found guilty. Cora and John, they catch 10-year stretches. Whit Tennyson is given a 12-year bid since he had that prior record. So they're sent off to Detroit House of Corrections. And as the New York World reports, quote, during her confinement here, she occupied the east cell in the female department, and in the absence of prison companions, devoted most of her time to reading cheap, trashy novels, seldom reading or calling for a newspaper unless it contained an account of her crime or that of her two partners in the bank raid.
They're like...
So she's back to who she was as a girl, reading trashy novels, dreaming of being an outlaw, but she kind of made it. I feel like the trashy novels and reading stories really gives more insight than almost all the other things we've heard.
Yeah.
So also, especially about the whole mythos building and the purple prose and the fascination with Belle Starr. Anyway, on the day after Christmas, 1904, the governor of Missouri commutes Cora Hubbard's sentence 3 years early. Okay. She's released on New Year's Day, new year, new me.
Yeah.
After her release, she finds work as a seamstress, and then she just disappears from the pages of history.
Interesting.
The date of her death is unknown because there's no obituary written for her.
Yeah.
Over time, her outlaw life, try as she might, and all those reporters tried, despite being, like aided and abetted by the media, she's largely forgotten. And so ends the tale of Cora Hubbard, Lady Bandit. So Elizabeth, what's our ridiculous takeaway here?
We hardly knew ye. Again, the fantastic tales of that era of newspaper work are incredible. That, what they're inventing and the mythos and the one that she perpetuated. Like you're saying, she's 20 and she had one failed bank robbery.
Also very much, it reminded me of the influencers you've told me stories about, where they're using the media to project this image that will make them
very
famous.
So.
As you said, if they can get out and go do Wild West shows, then they'll be rich.
Right.
They'll be able to cash in on it. So this, once again, there is nothing new under the sun.
Absolutely
just some things change, like, we have to point and click instead of doing the telegraph.
Absolutely. Zaron, what's your ridiculous takeaway?
My ridiculous takeaway, thank you for asking, Elizabeth,
You're welcome.
is it's hard out there being a lady bandit.
It really is.
You got to be true to yourself, and then the world's not true to you, and it's just a mess of fictions and non-fictions all running.
Us lady bandits and lady hosts and lady rude dudes have a lot to be angry about.
Yes, and also, don't you love her anger?
And I feel like I can identify with that sometimes. You just want to do your thing, right?
Just be
and not
free.
Be pigeonholed and not be underestimated. And, and I think too that if any, we're talking about lady hosts, if any man rude dudes were to hear that and be offended, well, maybe do a little introspection if that upsets you to hear.
Totally. And also, I do love her multitudes where she's like, sometimes I want to be wearing men's clothes and robbing banks. Sometimes I want to wear dresses to read trashy novels.
People are not just one thing, and there's nuance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She is a continuum.
That's right.
You in the mood for a talk back?
I am always in the mood.
Producer D, can you favor us with one?
Talk backs. Oh my God, did he just say that?
OMG. Zaron, Elizabeth, it's your best friend Aaron here in Oregon. I just had to say that Philip the Tub, yes, it's a mob name, and it's the mob name of the skinniest dude you've ever seen.
Yes.
Philip totally just buck 25.
Yeah, dripping wet. Thank you.
Philip the Tub.
Well, as always, you can find us online, Ridiculous Crime, on Blue Sky and Instagram. And we have the Ridiculous Crime Pod over on YouTube if you like getting your podcasts there. And they got some cool animations. And we have our website, ridiculouscrime.com. Go check it out. The merch, there's gifts, there's design. I think we were named a James Beard finalist this year, so I'm very excited about that.
There's a whole hypnosis section.
Yeah, there is the self-help and hypnosis section. Also, there's the iHeart app. You can download that, leave a talk back, maybe hear your voice here, and we'd love to hear it, so please go try that out. And you can email us if you'd like at ridiculouscrime@gmail.com. We'd love to get your emails, so also try that to extend your reach. And as always, thank you for listening. We will catch you next crime. Ridiculous Crime is hosted by Elizabeth Dutton and Zaron Burnett. Produced and edited by our man quick with the Winchester, Mr. Dave Koustin. And starring Annalise Rucker as Judith. Research is by the Smith to R. Wesson, Marissa Brown, and Jabari Davis. Our theme song is by our house band, Cherokee Bill and the Presidential Pardons, a.k.a. Thomas Lee and Travis Dutton. The host wardrobe provided by Bonnie 500. Guest hair and makeup by Sparkle Shot and Mr. Andre. Executive producers are 21st Century Gentleman Bandits, Ben Bolin and Noel Brown.
Ridiculous crime.
Say it one more time.
Ridiculous crime.
Ridiculous Crime is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.